Good morning. Can everyone hear me? All right. So thanks, Prem. Thanks, Mohan. Happy to be here and share some experiences. Um, I've been mostly on my own for the last 22 years. So what I thought I would do was spend around 15 minutes specifically talking about a period of time where um, we had started a company, and then as it normally goes, it was not going too well. And then we had to kind of think on our feet and do stuff. So I thought it would probably be apt for, for this audience, and happy to take questions at the end of it. So here I go. So I was co-founder of a company called EduRight, not Erudite actually, EduRight. Started way back in 2000. We, uh, we raised some seed funding from some HNIs back in the valley and from India. Uh, and we started the company just about when we had the dot-com boom. So we kind of caught the right part of the boom and started. When our objective when we started was we wanted to use education to make teaching and learning simpler and to make life more exciting for the student. We thought that there is a big difference between the quality of education that happens in the best college and the best school and the not so good college and the not so good school. So we said if we can use technology to capture that difference in the quality of education being imparted and get a distribution mechanism to give this to students, then that was a winning formula. So good thought, noble thought, and we started in right earnest, but there were a few problems. Just before I go to the problems, let me just give you the context. I don't know how many of you are aware of the Indian education system, but let me just give you a 2-minute introduction to it. It's one of the largest education systems in the world, as you would imagine. It's approximately $100 billion market per year, out of which around 60 billion is K to 12, kindergarten to 12, and 40 billion is higher education. It also has, and I'm including everything in this K to 12. Let me focus on the K to 12 piece. There are around 250 million children going to school, and there are around 150 million children who do not go to school, who are between 4 and 17 years. So you're looking at a large market, which obviously is very significant and very attractive from outside when you look at it. But it's actually not so simple, and I'll come to the reasons as why it's not so simple to attack. So that was the context, and we were going after this market. So our thought was very simple. We have great professors and great teachers today teaching physics. Let me give you a live example. At that point in time, we had a professor, R.K. Jagdish, who was fantastic in physics. People used to have entrance exams to get into his tuitions. I mean, I'm sure we have even that today, a lot of you know that. So we used to have entrance exams to get into his tuitions. That's how popular he was in Basongudi, for example. And we said all we need to do is to get Professor Jagdish captured and teaching on camera, put it together with some text, put it on a CD-ROM, and boom, you've got it. I mean, this was obviously in 2000. So we said, that sounds like the right mix. I mean, even now it doesn't sound like such a bad idea, does it? So that's how we started. And we started filming the R.K. Jagdish's of the world for various subjects. We were, at that point in time, we started with 10th grade and 12th grade, and then we moved to 9th and 11th. So we had the whole 9th through 12th. We also had products for entrance exams for engineering and medical tests. So we started with that, and we said, you know what? the minute we put this out in the market, we're going to have a complete riot. We're going to have people queuing up and wanting to buy our products. We need to make sure we have thousands and thousands and thousands of products ready because there's going to be so much demand. You know what? We didn't have too many queues. We didn't have any queues at all, in fact. Reason was that the target market that we were going after was a very, very thin slice of the large segment that was there. The first point was only 2% of homes in India had PCs at that point in time. So obviously anybody who does not have a PC is not going to spend thousands of rupees on buying a CD-ROM which they can't use. Out of the 2%, we also needed to target people who had kids between 9th and 12th. I mean, that's another slice. And obviously the last slice is, even if you had kids, you need to be inclined to use e-learning, which was a new concept. So you need to do a lot of evangelism to make sure that e-learning was accepted and parents could think that this could actually help the kids. So finally, when it came down, the target market was not so big after all. And by the time we could reach to the target market, we needed to sell the product at something like 10,000 bucks a pop, which make it so expensive that we just could not scale it. So there were two challenges. One was in the product definition, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And the second was in the go-to-market. I just spoke a little bit about the go-to-market. Let me talk a little bit about product definition. When we started defining the product, what we said was we would have video plus text, but it was not as simple as that. There are 33 different syllabi in India. So if I get a Professor R.K. Jagdish to teach physics for 11th grade Karnataka State Board, I need to start from scratch to do the same for each of the other 32 syllabi in India. And that is a killer. I mean, you cannot make a product 33 times to fit all the students' syllabi. That was one issue. The second one was, obviously, what we realized was that these professors were what I call local Amitabh Bachchans, which is, you go to a Basangudi and Professor R.K. Jagdish is the most popular teacher in Basangudi for physics, period. But you go to Chamrajpet and nobody knows who R.K. Jagdish is. You go to Malleshwaram, they haven't even heard of him. So what we realized was this was a very local phenomenon which does not translate into other parts. Just imagine what will happen if you go to Delhi. So forget not knowing R.K. Jagdish, they could not just understand what he was saying because Professor Jagdish, with all his physics skills, has a very distinct local accent. And if you go to Delhi, they just couldn't figure out what he was saying. Forget understanding physics. They couldn't even understand whether he was talking in English or not. So it was as distinct as that. So we realized that what obviously we thought initially was not coming together. So what did we do here? We completely changed the nature of the product. We said we will move away from video. We moved away from video and we started only making animations. At that point in time, we started the 2D and then we went to 3D. But we said we will only do animations. The second thing that we did was we first broke the concepts down to the smallest possible size. So, I mean, anybody who's an engineer here or knows a little bit about programming would obviously know about object-oriented programming. So very similar to object-oriented programming, we broke the concept down. So you have physics and you have laws of motion and you have Newton's laws and then you have Newton's first law, second law and third law which says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. For third law, you have examples defining third law and illustrating what that means. So we actually took it to that level and made an animation for, let's say, one animation to illustrate Newton's third law, one animation with an example, one animation explaining what the law actually means. So we would have 3 objects just for Newton's third law, just to give you. Then what happened was, it was like a brick wall and then you could move the bricks around to suit the syllabus because you had the smallest possible unit and then you could just move it around. Every syllabus out of all the 33 syllabi teach Newton's laws. Nobody doesn't teach Newton's laws. In one syllabi it was in 8th grade, in one it was in 9th, and in one more maybe it was in 7th. But they definitely would teach. So what we managed doing is basically started creating a product which was reusable, and that definitely helped. Of course, it also helped that we didn't have a specific accent at the voiceover. So we chose people, professional voiceover artists who had kind of neutral accents which could be understood by at least Indians across north, south, east, and west. So that's something that we did. So those two things really help from a product definition perspective. But what we did in terms of go-to-market was very interesting. So I explained to you about the problem in terms of even though the market size was so big, the final target addressable market was very small because of 2% PC penetration and so on, right? So the point that I started thinking about was, why are we only looking at what's the weakness of the market? What's the weakness of India's market? It was then, it is still now, which is PC penetration is still low. It is definitely much, much better than 2% right now, but it's still very low. It's compared to the developed countries, it's still low. The ability to get value for your product, from your customer to pay more for your product, purchasing capacity is still low. I mean, compared to, again, developed countries, it is still not as high as the hundreds of dollars that people would spend outside for textbooks, for example. It still is much, much cheaper here. But what's the strength of the market? The obvious strength of the market is that it is a huge market. Like I told you, there are 250 million children going to school. That's a humongous number. So the way I started thinking about it is, we've already now built intellectual property and created a lot of content for which the investment is already over. Now, all I'm bothered about is to get to monetizing that content in some way. Now, just replace X and Y by different numbers. One way to do this is to sell the content to, let's say, 1,000 people at around $1,000 each, which is almost impossible to do to get to a revenue of $1 million. The other way to look at it is, if I can find 1 million people to sell it to them at $1 each, I still get to the same number. So I started looking at ways by which I could focus on increasing this number to a much larger number and not worrying about what was before the equal to, because the IP had already been made. And as long as there's only a small variable cost for you to get to millions of people, the economic equation actually started to make sense. So we did some very interesting things and very innovating things on go-to-market. The first thing that we did was we realized that let's flip this around. Let's go to markets where there is ready-made volume and try and look at education as a value add to that product. So we first approached Intel and Intel's OEMs to bundle education content along with their PCs. The reason was very simple. Across India, the number one reason to buy home PCs was, believe it or not, education. And I'll give you another startling statistic. The number one reason for buying home PCs even today is education. But I'll tell you the downside. Once the PC is bought, then education becomes number 6 in terms of usage, right? So, but what matters for the people who are selling the PC is what the user is thinking before buying the PC, not after buying the PC, right? So the pitch to Intel was very simple. The number one reason for people to buy a PC is education. We will bundle relevant content with every education PC that you sell into homes today, so that the value of your product going up. All we want from you is a royalty per box that you sell, so that we can get return for our content. So we did that, and we sold around 100,000 licenses to Intel at around, I don't remember now, but it was around $2 to $4. So which was not bad. I mean, we got some decent revenue in for that. So that was a good start and gave us some, but was not happy with that because the volumes obviously is good, but it's not great. They were selling somewhere around a few 100,000 PCs into homes a year at that point in time. I'm talking about this was around 2003, 2005 kind of time frame. Then I thought about what's the next in terms of volume, right? Books was an obvious answer. Just to give you a very quick idea, I will give you a number of new textbooks that are printed only across school in India today. 250 million children, approximately 4 textbooks, that's 1 billion textbooks every year. Half of those are hand-me-downs. You're still looking at 500 million new textbooks being printed every year. Now that's a huge, huge number. So what I did was, I approached the top 3 book publishers in India and gave them an idea. I said, you have great text content which is very popular, already reaching hundreds and thousands of schools and thousands of students. I'll give you a way by which your product quality immediately is perceived as much better. I have digital content which I will map to your book. So if it is a S. Chand book on science CBSE 8th grade, I would map digital content to the same concepts that's there in that book, bundle it, put it on a CD-ROM, brand it as that publisher, S. Chand or whoever it is, and give him a white labeled product which goes stuck at the back of the book. So we started doing this around, 2003 on 2004 onwards, and I met the top 3 to 5 textbook publishers and pitched this idea to them. They loved it. They really liked it. The key was to keep the cost low, but a CD-ROM used to cost around 6 to 7 rupees to manufacture. And the pitch to the publisher was that and a typical textbook at that point in time used to cost 100 rupees. So the thought was to sell the textbook without the CD at 100 and the textbook with the CD at around 125, 130 rupees, which from a perceived value perspective was fantastic for the user. Simply because a CD-ROM with actual EdTech animated content was around 300 to 400 rupees at that time in the market. So a couple of them started bundling with us and we kind of did, I think, 200,000 to 400,000 copies in the first 2 years, along with Frank Brothers, who was one of the largest book publishers in the country, and then started doing it with other publishers like Macmillan and so on. So this really gave us a fantastic kicker as far as volumes were concerned. We were selling it to them not at 100, 200 rupees, but we were giving it to them at around 17, 18 rupees, and they used to have a markup and they used to sell. But the point was that there was huge value that was being perceived throughout the chain, be it for us. It was really a win-win-win situation. Either for us, we were getting ready-made volumes. For the publisher, the product quality, perceived quality was going up. And for the user, it was a fantastic deal because they were getting from a perceived value perspective, great value for money. And then we did something which I think, I don't know whether has been done after that, but I thought was extremely innovative. We then started thinking about what has got even more volume compared to textbooks. Can anybody venture to guess what would have more volume than textbooks? Typically FMCG, right? So said, why can we go after FMCG brands which are focused on the child? And because education is culturally so serious in India, every parent takes education so seriously, can we get an FMCG brand which is child focused or which is mother focused for that matter to bundle education along with its product? So just to give you an idea, a lot of brands, it makes a lot of sense. Take Britannia, for example. So Britannia's tagline then, I don't know what it's now, but then it was eat healthy, think better, right? Britannia used to sell 65 lakh packets of biscuits every day. right? Now that is serious volume. If I can tag along with them and get Britannia to get perceived as a brand which not only is for eat healthy, but is also for think better. Because for think better, really, you don't really see the brand doing anything much, at least at that point in time you didn't, right? So the pitch to them was, we will bundle education along with your product. For a moment, humor me on how you obviously can't have a CD-ROM going with every pack of biscuits, but just imagine a campaign like Britannia Khao, World Cup Jao kind of a campaign where for every pack you get some points, and then you go and exchange it for some, just for theory. So that was the thought. And we started talking for about a year. We spoke to around, I would say, 18 to 20 brands. We went to Bata, we went to Kellogg's, Britannia, Bonvita, Horlicks, you name the kid-focused brand, and I met them. The thought again was simple. Education is very serious in India. Instead of bundling something like sunglasses or a cap or something like that, which is really inane for your brand, why don't you get a strong connect with education, and we will give it to you at a fantastic price. So I even proposed a price of around 15 rupees for large volumes, of course, which we could give them. We then found success with one brand, and believe it or not, it was a brand in fabric wash. We actually bundled education with Rin soap powder in around 2004-05. It was one of the largest bundles that Rin has done, and it actually worked extremely well for them. The thought was simple. The thought was, education is serious business for the mother. Okay? Why are you bundling a bucket with fabric wash? Bundle education with a fabric wash. That was what the thought we went with. And as you know, we went, and Rin was the one which bundled. Rin, as you know, is run by Unilever, and they loved the idea. There was a big challenge. The same challenge which was there before, and I know this question will come up, so I'll answer it right now anyway. If my consumer and only 2% of them own PCs, then why should I bundle a CD-ROM? So the answer which came out of that was, what mattered was not if my consumer owned a PC or not, but what mattered was if my consumer had access to a PC or not. So the parents were happy enough to take a bundle of a CD-ROM, and they valued it much more, an education CD-ROM valued it much more than a bucket or a cap or something like that. So that really was something which changed our fortunes around. We did around more than, I think, 500,000 copies in around 1 month for Rin at that point in time. More importantly, it worked for them. For a typical promo, they used to get a spike of around 20%. With this, they got a spike of around 33%, which is obviously a huge jump at that volume that you're talking about. So, yeah, I mean, the point that I wanted to make was, one thing is to look at the market and look at its weakness and try and solve that and go after that or crib about that weakness. The other way to look at it is to really see what are the strengths of the market and how can I reposition my product which can align to the strengths of the market. I think that can really be extremely useful for startups, in any walk of life. This was a real-time experience, real-life experience for me. So I just thought I'll share that with you. So thank you very much. Thank you. Happy to take questions. I think we have a few minutes for questions.
Thanks, Srikant. If today the CD-ROM would be replaced, what would be the means of selling the product? Because CD-ROM, do you think is still relevant now, or do you think you would?
No, it's not. So this was just the concept. So it actually is easier now, if you ask me. So I would actually pay. So since you asked me this question, I think the market has flipped now. I will actually pay to go and partner with the publisher. Forget taking money from the publisher. Simply because he can actually give me, captive audience which is buying his book. So if he's selling, let's say, 10,000 copies of Science for 8th Standard CBSE, and I can put a scratch card at the back of his book, which can go, and that can link to an online course, I'm actually getting a user to come on and think of a freemium model where I give some content free and then the rest of it is paid. Then my content has to dictate whether the customer is going to pay and buy the premium content or not. So today's, this one, I would actually see the model flip completely. I mean, I hope there are no publishers here, but I would think that the model will flip completely, and I would actually pay the publisher to do it. I mean, thankfully, I'm not in the education business anymore, so I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
So I hope that helps, yeah.
Hi, Srikant. Good morning. Very, very insightful session. I'm Shubhradeep. I've recently ventured into the food space. My question is, as an entrepreneur, so you started with a certain business model in mind, and you realized that it's not working, the game plan, as you had initially thought. So what are some of those triggers or the milestones which prompted you to think, okay, let's change the game plan, let's change the business model, reposition, and that's when you ventured into the PC, then the books, and then the fabric wash. So what was in your mind or in the mind of your leadership team in 2002-03 when it wasn't going as per your plan? So what are those 2-3 feelers which you got, which prompted you to change your strategy?
I don't think it was one flash of light or something like that, and you know, I mean, I don't know, it didn't work like that for me. But it was actually continuously thinking about the problem and saying, you know what, am I going to hit my head against this wall? It doesn't sound like it's going to break in the next 100 years. So which is, and I don't control it. If there is PC penetration of 2% in the country, I can do very little to make it 10% in 2 years' time. I can't, right? I can only control what I can do. I cannot control increase in PC penetration. So that was the first driver actually. Because when we started selling these products, like I told you, we even went on TV very briefly. I don't know if any of you have seen our ads. We went very briefly, went on TV, just didn't sell the products. So obviously our hypothesis on the fact that, you know, people are just waiting for a product like this and this is like, you know, what people were waiting for the last 100 years and all that was basically crap. So we then started completely, we went back to the drawing board and said, where is the problem? And the problem seemed to be in two areas. The first area was in the definition of the product itself. And the second area was obviously the GTM. And the GTM actually evolved. So then we said, okay, let's try first with PCs. So what we did was we took a McKinsey report, I still remember, which had the population in terms of cities in India and the reasons for buying PCs in those cities, and coincidentally saw that report and said, okay, if education is the #1 reason for them to buy, then is there a place where we can go and we can latch on to that bandwagon and add value to PC manufacturers? So we started with LG, I remember, and HP, I think, and we still do it actually. I mean, we as in Pearson still does it. We got acquired by Pearson and so on. So Pearson still does work with PC manufacturers even today after whatever, 13, 14 years. So it was not, like I said, a flash, but it kind of evolved. And then when that volume started working, then started looking at saying, okay, now how do I go to more volume and how do I go to more volume? The third one I remember very well, I was in Mumbai, actually I was in a friend's office and he used to work for Ogilvy. And I was sitting in his room and then I saw this, I don't remember the brand now, but I think it was Bata. It was a back to school campaign. And then I said, you know what, for Bata it would make a lot of sense. Because it would be a great value add. They anyway sell shoes and bags and whatnot. So can we do that? And then, like I told you, I met hordes of brand managers of brands who were handling kids and mother-focused brand products. So yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, one quick thing is that the concept started as a local Amitabh Bachchan's. Does your product really replace the local Amitabh Bachchan's? Does it, because I missed that it converted into animation, of course, the obvious reasons that the accent and other things. But does the product has that local professor or the whoever is the local Amitabh Bachchan, does that have that kick in it?
No, so we were not planning to replace local Amitabh Bachchan's. I think the plan was that the local Amitabh Bachchan's and few and far in between, can we use technology to give access to everybody to that quality of education. So that was, if you go back, that was the initial thought that we started with. And I think we kind of ended up doing what we wanted to, only the route was different, that's all. We just thought we would go straight to the parent and then they would welcome us with open arms and open their purses and pay us whatever we want. That didn't happen. So, but I think we still got to the end objective, but we just found a different route to go there to get to the end objective. I also think that what we managed to do, just to go back to this one, was that we helped made good teachers into great teachers and average teachers into good teachers by helping them use technology. So one way of looking at it was, instead of, creating or replicating local Amitabh Bachchans, we actually managed to make teachers improve the standard of delivery by using something like this. So if you go back and look at it, it's the same thing as long as the end user is getting the benefit of that. I hope that.
Giving it to parents directly, how
Yes.
does teacher come into play?
No, we had both kinds of products. So we had products which were direct. Whatever we spoke about today was the direct consumer product, which also was stitching together a series of animations. So we did have products which were used by teachers during lectures to make their teaching better. So we did that, but that's another story for another day, not for today. Yeah, but I don't know how we are doing on time.
Did you try to tie up with universities to start your product also? Or?
Yeah, so we did go to schools and we did have, like I said, that was another line of products. So 3 years ago, we were in around 5,000 private schools, and around 25,000 classrooms were using our products to teach in the classrooms. But I said I wanted to focus on something where we had literally had to use innovation on the go, so to speak, which was the theme for today. And so I thought I would speak about that. But like I said, that we did reach around 5,000 schools. It must be more now. This was around 2-3 years ago. We were in around 5,000 schools. Yeah. Thank you very much. Enjoy talking to you.